morning, good afternoon, good evening in the different time zone, in the different countries, in the different continents, at different places world over, wherever our brothers and sisters are there in the entire universe, because from India, we always call it Vasudev Kutumbakam. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of us together in the different time zones, in the different continents, in different conditions, in different countries, wherever we are, let me extend a very warm welcome to each one of you. Today is 199. That means 198 webinars have already been held right from 25th of March till 3rd of October, when we come with 199, 199th webinar. And tomorrow morning, of course, Professor Dhiman will address the entire universe. That will be 200. So, ladies and gentlemen, this evening, this morning, this afternoon, in the different time zones, let me extend a very warm welcome to all my brothers and sisters and the natives of all the countries, wherever you are. We pray to Almighty for your good health, for your wellness. And ladies and gentlemen, all the non-resident Indians, 30 million plus, those are abroad in different countries, they bring proud to India from time to time, whatsoever you are doing, various tasks, whatsoever you have taken up, we are proud of you. We will always be proud of you. This morning, this afternoon, this evening, in different time zones, we are going to discuss and we are going to deliberate and we are going to do some mental, cerebrum shake-up, where we will be talking about the panel discussion, which will be taking care of on New Education Policy 2020, which has been rolled by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, along with his entire cabinet and the Education Minister of India, because earlier the ministry was known as Ministry of Human Resource Development, and now Ministry of Education, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank, and his entire team, all the stakeholders, those are directly or indirectly associated. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are two parts. One is the school education, one is higher education. Today, we are focusing on higher education, and this program is live on YouTube world over to all of us. And everybody prefers nowadays, you just want to say, Alexa, can you just open Dr. Gulshan Sharma's page on the YouTube? Because you don't want to even press few buttons and you want to go directly. So, ladies and gentlemen, just put the sound over there. The Google will also take on. Come to the YouTube channel, Dr. Gulshan Sharma, ICSI, International Chamber for Service Industry. We are going to talk about the global best education practices and a couple of other related areas we are going to talk about. Now, we extend you a very warm welcome on behalf of International Chamber for Service Industry, ICSI, which is in operation since 1994. Most of us, we know Bharatiya Parvasi Divas, but let me share with all of you, before Bharatiya Parvasi Divas in India, there was Panjabi Parvasi Divas from 1994. And in 2003, when the group walked in to then the Honorable Prime Minister of India, late Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, and made a small presentation, and he told, let's have a cup of tea, all of us together. It's wonderful you people are doing. When do you hold this Panjabi Parvasi Divas? So it was conveyed, it's on 13th of January, because that is the time, the last weeks of December and the first 2 weeks of the January, it is suitable to all the non-resident Indians to come. He says, wonderful, what is the date? It was conveyed 13th of January. That's a Lohri festival for Punjabis, which is being celebrated. So he thought for a while and he told, let there be a Bharatiya Parvasi Divas also with Punjabi Parvasi Divas. And he told it should be held on 9th of January. Then everybody in the group was looking left and right what it is. And then he told Mahatma Gandhi ji returned from South Africa on 9th of January to India. Who could be a better NRI than him? And ladies and gentlemen, that was the birth in 2003 for the Bharatiya Parvasi Divas. During this lockdown, we all understand the whole system world over is being affected. And particularly if you go through the UNESCO's report, 1.86 billion children, they are away from schools, colleges, universities, institutions, polytechnics, ITIs, whatsoever we talk about. So The entire journey from 25th of March, we have taken making education relevant. How education should remain relevant. We are proud that the Honorable Prime Minister of India told India has to become self-reliant. The journey ahead is we have to get towards making India Atmanirbhar Bharat. When you talk about it, intent, innovation, infrastructure, investment, and inclusion. Five things to build a self-reliant India. And ladies and gentlemen, from there, when we moved ahead, the Ministry of HRD renamed to Ministry of Education on 29th of July at 4 p.m. in the evening, and thereafter the press conference. And here is the Education Minister of India, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank ji, and the new education policy 2020. Now, the first policy came in 1968, reverse the last two figures, prefix and suffix. 1968, reverse the last two, it became 86, and now it is the new education policy 2020, what we talk about. Now, what exactly this policy has got? Making education accessible and relevant for all. Everybody got to be taken care of when we talk about it, and everybody has to be given the proper and same education, the best possible way. So the question comes over here, why traditional curriculums? Why education not to be directly related to day-to-day life? And during this pandemic, there was a lot of time to research and rewind and reskill and skill and increase the competencies. And the question came, what the corporate sector is thinking, what universities are thinking, what colleges are thinking, what higher education pedagogy and andragogy is going on. And there was something new, because you got to be mentally strong, mentally robust, if you want your body to physically follow. Everybody was talking about immune system. So music therapy also plays very important role in education. Somebody told, don't call it a therapy, that goes only with medical treatments and all that. Ladies and gentlemen, music plays very important role. It's a privilege that our lead speaker this evening or this morning or this afternoon, Professor Satinder Dhiman from the Woodbury University, Burbank, had been the chamber's president for 3 years. He took care of this chamber from 2016 to 2018. So that time also we deliberated and we discussed, music got to play. Now, earlier we were telling children, don't touch your phone that much. Why are you on the iPad so much? And now you tell children, come on, take the mobile, see it for 2 hours, at least find out what your teacher is telling, what is going on. So ladies and gentlemen, could gamification also be a part of education? Positive, innovative games. And a lot of research has been carried out, and our chamber has written to more than 150 corporate houses. Those are manufacturing the games at this point of time. Why can't we build a games which are positive, which are constructive, which are innovative, which are creative, and which gives a new dimension to the whole education system? Now, ladies and gentlemen, very important to understand, education was earlier teaching centric, now it is learning centric. And when we are talking about learning centric, we got to understand ultimately what does today's youth want and how the youth to be empowered. That is something very important which we all have to take care of. Now, I think whether we like it or not, world over, the people, those are watching this particular program, in a very polite way, in a very humble way, I'll fold my hands before you at the age of 71. And I just submit to all of you only one thing. The teachers also got to be undergoing training program, because some of the children know much more than the teachers. And they have time, they have creativity. These millennials, those are born with the gadgets. They have come in this era. You got to upskill yourself. That part is very important. So in this education policy, a lot of emphasis has been given that teachers got to be empowered. The capacity building for the teachers has to be done. Now, it will not happen automatically. Teachers have to be put through the process. it has to be stimulating, it has to be rewarding, it has to be encouraging, it has to be empowering. All the factors we have to take into consideration. Now, I try to look back and I try to understand what must have happened. I watched more than 60 videos on Nalanda, on Takshila, on Dharmashila, on a couple of other places. What must have been there? 10,000 students together, 2,000 teachers, acharya, all the subjects being taught over there. So what was happening at that point of time? There was no subject which was not covered at that point of time. So slowly and gradually, what exactly happened? What did somebody did to the education system of India, and why India got the back seat? I just get back to the historical perspective. This is the Nalanda University, and 100 top institutions in the country are to be identified now. When I'm talking about the new education policy, we are going to get 100 new foreign institutions coming to India and setting up their campuses. That is something very important, which we all have to take into consideration. A good friend, Sir Ken Robinson, we lost him recently. He passed away. Let his soul rest in peace. Great soul, great person, great. And his book, whenever you read, Do Schools Kill Creativity? And there was an education, Death Valley, and a couple of other things when you talk about the purpose of education, why somebody should take education. Parents, are they looking forward to their child should start working, whether working for someone or starting some entrepreneurship venture? Because one of the distinguished speakers this evening, who is the pioneer and who has set up the complete setup on entrepreneurship, he's going to talk to us. So economic purpose of education, social, cultural, personal, whatever we talk about, that we are going to share. So ladies and gentlemen, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam is something very important. The only difference is that over here, economics was the priority. Over here, your culture is the priority. So you got to be taking care of two different approaches. Let the whole world be one family. Dr. Sugata Mitra, couple of deliberations and discussions and insights and whatsoever we got from him. And that is, he fitted two computers in one of the wall without any teacher, just one camera to record on the top and capturing all the images, students coming at their own. And after 1 month, when they took out the data and they carry out the synthesis, they found what is the evolution of learning environment. Can kids teach themselves? Do they require supervision all the times? Do they require feeding from all the times? The impact of technology on education and study habits. I keep discussing with Professor Satinder Dhiman from time to time, whether you and me like it or not, but technology is going to play a very important role. Sure, it's not going to replace teachers. It's not going to replace educators ever, but it would be playing very important role as far as education in the future is concerned. Why millennials are choosing startups over corporations? They don't want to take up a job. And recently I found a lot of people are leaving their jobs and they want to start something at their own. They don't want to be under anybody. They don't want to be with someone. So that part also one has to take into consideration. Now, ladies and gentlemen, present education scenario, when we talk about, this is something very important. Schools, colleges, university, educators, administrator, technology, all of us in the education system, ecosystem, lot of marathon, lot of mental cerebrum and shaking up has to go on, because there is something very alarming which I got the other day. There's a video, Nightmare to Universities and Colleges. We must watch on that. And there are more than 8 million followers, those have seen that particular on the YouTube. Now, technology has changed the education delivery mechanism. What corporate are thinking? They are telling, we don't require four years degree. We don't require 3 years degree. Somebody can come over here and they can learn with us in the corporate sector itself, in our company, in our industry itself. So they are trying to fetch and they're trying to attract in the electromagnetic field children directly to their corporate houses. And a lot of children have started thinking. And that also has been brought into the new education system, which we got to understand. So learning management system, how the role of educational institutional got to completely change. Skills and competencies, how they are going to play very important role. How technology is going to revolutionize in future every education segment. Artificial intelligence or emotional intelligence. That also we got to understand. And why not human intelligence? So a couple of deliberations on that as well, which we got to think and we got to talk about. Now, skill or competencies, that also is being deliberated. 198 webinars, which we have done. That's why we want to share. And we have not taken any one pedagogy or andragogy. We brought all the stakeholders on this platform together. Our chamber, Monday to Sunday. Yes, you rightly heard, not Monday to Friday. There's no holiday in this chamber. 365 days we work. No Saturday, Sunday. Who incorporated Saturday, Sunday? I don't know how it has been incorporated. There should not be any holiday. Sorry. Now we got to work on, because we breathe oxygen on Saturday, Sunday also. We take food also. We do all other activities. Why not to apply some kind of a shake-up onto education, empowering also. So ladies and gentlemen, the key word we have taken, and that is the philosophy, making education relevant. It's a global confluence of intellectuals. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 days, we get the youth empowerment strategies. All the youth, everybody, young millennials are being brought, and total focus is on YES program, youth empowerment strategies. Friday evening, we take you to 500 million plus people. What is Buddha's teaching in and relevance in today's education system? That is on Friday evening. Saturday, we talk about 11th of September has just gone, Chicago. We got Swamiji who spoke to us all the way from Chicago. It was wonderful. 11th of September, 1893, 127 years back. Sisters and brothers of America. What Swami Vivekananda must have conveyed over there. So ladies and gentlemen, every Saturday evening, we have got the sermons coming right from Vivekananda's teaching, where we get you Swamis and they talk about what is the relevance of Swami Vivekananda's teaching in education and for youth empowerment. Saturday, we talk about yoga, meditation, naturopathy, organic, nutrition. Everything is coming on wellness, therapies. Then comes Sunday morning, Indian Standard Time, 9:30 to 11 a.m. We get Professor Satinder Dhiman live from America, and he talks about Srimad Bhagavad Gita and 10 principal Upanishad. What is their relevance in today's education system? Vidya se adhyatam vidya ki aur, the journey what we have got. So that is being discussed every Sunday morning. Sunday evening, we take you to 650 million population to ASEAN, which was known as earlier Southeast Asia, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Brunei. All the 10 countries, they get together and we have a mental marathon deliberation, India, ASEAN, the trade and education partnership. And the last program is, what is the purpose of education? How to make education relevant, why to take education, why to acquire skill, why to acquire competency. That is the last one. When you take on Sunday evening, we talk about micro, small and medium enterprise, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise, and Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, where we talk about the startups and everything related to that. Our chamber is alive every day from morning 9 till evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming out with our Global Finishing School booklet, which would be talking about the entire journey from 25th of March onward, what all has happened. So the ideal education is to remove ignorance and to provide the desired knowledge and competencies to every educator and youth. We have put educator first, not the youth first, not the student first. So it is to provide that, and that is for the global peace. The only thing which can bring harmony, peace, brotherhood, happiness, global happiness, mental happiness, physical happiness, we got to empower everybody with the education system. That part is something very important. This is the research which our chamber has carried out in 150 countries right from 25th March during this pandemic. The world will never get back to what it used to be in January and February. The food is the basic part. We got to have more startups coming on agriculture, organic, animal husbandry, everything related to that. भोजन चाहिए, आपको पहले खाना चाहिए जीने के लिए, श्वास लेने के लिए खाना चाहिए. So first thing is the food part. Second is your health. If you're mentally strong, you're physically strong, so you can take care of any problem. And third part is now the education would be earn and learn or earn, whatsoever you want to. Earlier, parents had a lot of protection for their children. No, 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 don't worry. You did not to do any job. I will do extra job. I'll do overtime. You just study only. So, ladies and gentlemen, the world will move on now. The B2B will no more be business to business. It's back to basics of life. And we talk about sustainable development of the future. That's what we are going to talk about. Our recommendations to Indian corporate, because before today, we are going to talk on the higher education, and with these distinguished guests and dignitaries, those are going to share their, kind of andragogy and their vision with all of us, and they give their valuable inputs to us. We must say, because somebody will ask, why are you asking NRIs only? What have you done in India? Because the people, those are in India, what have they thought about this education? Let me share with all of you. What have we done so far from 29th of July till date? We have told all the corporate, come forward. Education is the sector to focus to make India self-reliant. Government of India should encourage investment in education sector. SEZ, what was earlier special economic zone, it should be called now special education zones. 2% of the CSR, which basically corporate have to spend in India every time, every year, to get the 6% of the GDP in education. Let for next 5 years, the corporate spend their 2% of the CSR exclusively on empowering education ecosystem. 500 top corporate of India should contribute to education sector, and they can give more than 2% also, depending on their wish. That is what we are talking about. Government of India to focus on seamless connectivity. Ladies and gentlemen, the technology has brought digital divide. A lot of people are there because India still live in villages. We are in rural areas. We should not build the four walls. No more institutions, physical construction walls. We got to have the digital areas, digital empowerment, technology empowerment, and we got to have the global confluence of educators, expertise, networking, and non-resident Indian valuable inputs. We have written to the Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Education Minister, let's get some education experts from world over. Whatever salary they are getting at this point of time, the package, give a higher package, incentives. They will bring expertise with them. They will bring networking with them. They will bring wisdom with them. They will bring knowledge with them. And even if they come for a short-term assignment, we should encourage that if we are really serious to empower the education ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, अगर भारत को पुनः विश्व गुरु बनना है, so the only thing is that India can become the global study destination only when the education is being empowered. This is the last slide before I introduce my distinguished guest today. Whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not my quote. It's a Napoleon Hill. Whenever I get up in the morning, because I generally sleep Indian Standard Time, 9 o'clock, and get up at 3:30 in the morning. Today is a very, very special occasion. That's why we all are together to facilitate the whole world. Whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. It's only and only education empowerment, education relevance, which can make a better world and a better tomorrow. All of us, we got to get together, all the educators, motivators, technocrats, counselors, wellness experts, corporate, government administrators, decision makers. Let's get together and let's empower the education ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, my great salutation with the folding hands, and it's a wonderful occasion. It's a morning, it's an afternoon, it's an evening, whatever time zone you are in. We extend a very, very hearty welcome, warm welcome, right from the soul, right from the spirit, right from the cerebrum, and right from the intellectual, whatsoever voice is coming with the permission of the Almighty. We extend a very hearty welcome to our distinguished international speakers and the guests tonight, to morning, to today afternoon, whatever you want to call it. We have got Professor Satinder Dhiman. He's from the Woodbury University, Burbank, California, USA. Professor A.D. Amarji is a professor of management at Stillman School of Business, Seton Hall University, South Orange, New Jersey, USA. We extend him a very hearty welcome. Professor Anil K. Maheshwari, Maheshwari International University, USA. Dr. Ramesh Ray Gehaniji, Fellow Center for Intellectual Property Law and Innovation. And I must make a mention over here, in the new education policy, the law and the medical, they have been kept out of the purview, no disturbance. Law is to be dealt separately, and this medical to be dealt separately. Rest all has to come directly under the purview. And as he made a mention to me, and he told me during our brief discussion before we started on this, he made a mention that he set up the entrepreneurship, the entire area over there. Law, yes, that is one of the area, but being dealt separately. But entrepreneurship, we would be very keen if, sir, you could deliberate with all of us, the University of Akron, Ohio, USA, and Professor Sharda Nandaram, professor of Vrije University, Amsterdam in Netherlands. Ladies and gentlemen, पंजाबी में कहते हैं पंज प्यारे, पांच उंगलियां, पांच तत्व, पांच चीजों से संसार बना है, और मुझे नहीं पता, ये शेयर कोइंसिडेंस है, प्रोफेसर धीमान साहब को भी नहीं पता है इस बात का, लेकिन मैं बताना चाहूंगा. टुडे आई टर्न dash dash dash. Ladies, they don't tell their age. Today is my happy birthday. So nothing could have been a more reward from a younger brother than to have the international galaxy together, coming on a platform, all of them together. And I thought this morning or this afternoon or this evening, when I get Professor Dhiman, I would tell him that today nothing could have been more pious from a younger brother to an elder brother, because my life, I've already told him, rest of my life, whatever I have got in this planet, it is dedicated for empowering only education. And ladies and gentlemen, let me also tell each one of you, निष्पक्ष एक पैसा किसी से नहीं चाहिए, किसी एनआरआई से कोई आज तक एक नया पैसा नहीं लिया. 1994 से आज तक जितनी भी कॉन्फ्रेंसेस हमने की हैं एनआरआईज की, we have done with our own corporate houses. I have not taken a single rupee. This I want to tell on an international platform. So this deliberation, this discussion, this networking is not to get a money out of anybody in any kind. The God should develop the universe. God should empower the universe. Yes, today as an elder brother, as a brother, I request, give your intellectual capital, give your energy, give your experience, give your everything, whatsoever Almighty has given to all of you. And let's make India once again back to that stage, because more and more, I'm going through the videos, I'm telling what happened in the first century, second century, third century. And now forget about these numbers have come now, the GDPs and all that. Where was India's education system? Where have we come? Where have we reached? We got to revive, and nothing could have been better what the present Prime Minister of India, who has told number of times from the time he has declared and he has announced this policy that he is serious. He wants to make education relevant and accessible to every soul on this planet. India has to become Vishwaguru once again. So with these words, ladies and gentlemen, hearty welcome to all my brothers and sisters. And I request Professor Satinder Dhiman Sahab to kindly take on the lead and to start the deliberations. If you want, sir, the point for discussions, I can give that also, what it should revolve around, or I think we can just, choice is yours, sir.
Let's start with the traditional prayer. Om Sahna Vavatu, Sahno Vunaktu, Sahviryam Karvavahi, Tejasvi Navadhitamastu, Mavit Vishavahi. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashantu, Ma Kachit Dukh Bhav Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Sharma ji, आज आपका जन्मदिन है. Today is your birthday. So Ghalib says in one of his couplets that as a खिराद अकीदत to you, तुम जियो हजारों साल, हर साल के हूँ दिन 50,000. अब आप कैलकुलेट कीजिए इसका हिसाब किताब क्या है. ऐसा सिर्फ गालिब ही कह सकते हैं, तुम जियो हजारों साल और हर साल के दिन हो 50,000.
My question is, do you really want to live so long?
If you can contribute and add value to the universe, yes.
Exactly. Depends how long your agenda is.
So this is a very special.
Happy birthday, Gulshan ji. Dr. Gulshan sahab, happy birthday from all of us. I think that's first order of day. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you, Dhiman ji, for organizing it.
Yes, this is a very special, Anil ji, a panel with all of these distinguished friends. I have had the privilege and good fortune of interacting either in the books that has been done, or as co-authors in books, and so on and so forth. So for me, it is very special. It's like few friends, as Krishnamurti ji says, sitting under a tree, talking about something which they consider important. There is nothing more, nothing less than that. So our gathering today is just visualize a few friends getting together under a tree, under the shade of a tree, big tree, and under that tree talking about things that they think important. Education is very important. If India has to become Vishwaguru, then India has to bring certain Vishwagurus to India. It is very simple. It's a very simple formula. Today, we have some very important things to take care of. The education policy has been announced, and it has several important implications for taking India's education agenda forward. Today, we are going to start with something very important. In Indian Vedas, they say that before you start something, have what is called Purusharth Nishchay, Lakshya Nirdharan. Because only when you have done the Lakshya Nirdharan, you can do the Lakshya Bhedan. It's very simple. So we are going to start at the very beginning. What is the purpose of education? Because as we all know, having traveled in India and consulted with at least 15, 20 schools, universities in India, business education, for example, Sharma ji, has become very, very interesting. It has become little more than what I call business schools have become employment placement agencies, placement houses. Whereas the purpose of education, Savidya ya vimukte, that is education which makes a person free. Vidya danati vinayam, that is education which bestows humility. I think that the purpose of education has been lost in the purpose of making education relevant for livelihood. So we have been too much running after earning a livelihood. We forgot how to live, how to make life meaningful, or how to live a meaningful life. So today's discussion, I would like the distinguished panelists to keep that lakshya in mind. What is the purpose of education, and how we can recover that purpose which made India Vishwaguru when we used to have Nalanda and Takshashila like universities in India. So I open it with this question: what this panel considers to be the purpose of education? Udeshya, Purusharth Nishchay. Ramesh ji, maybe you can start. Yeah.
You want me to start?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Kindly.
Good. So thank you very much, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Satinder ji. for inviting. I think it's a great purpose and intention. Uh, you know, uh, when I reflect on the purpose, I reviewed the new education policy 2020. I think, as you rightly pointed out, it's a very ambitious policy. It's a very comprehensive policy. And I think it's a bold policy because it brings in particularly the holistic aspects, the Indian traditions, the Indian spirituality. Now, I personally believe that this can facilitate us, and I like to call this my presentation as innovating, educating for uh, empowering learning. And in fact, Gulshanji, a lot of things that you mentioned are sort of woven into this. So I'm glad that it's complementing, but it's not redundant. So let me share with you basically in two parts. So one part is a lifelong learning aspect and learning aspect, and how our learning needs to be slightly different. And then the second part is empowering aspect. And then I would discuss a program development based on my experiences. I'll share as much as possible my experiences, because we can do a lot of utopian thinking, but I think when it comes to practicing things, rubber meets the road and things become harder. Now, in the past, the education was education for information. It was a noun. When students came in as freshmen, they did not have it. We poured into them. When they graduated with a degree or diploma, they got it. It was a static model. It was discipline, depth, silo-based, and it was very often, as you highlighted, not so relevant. And a lot of students in India and rest of the world would graduate with a diploma. And, I actually taught corporate strategy, which was a capstone course. And there were students who were scared. They were saying, I'm graduating, I don't know anything. How will I work out there? So I think what we need is more innovating our education so that our students are empowered. And therefore, instead of making education as a noun, we need to make it as educating, as an ongoing process, empowering as an ongoing process, learning as an ongoing process. Now, uh, India has been fortunate for having a very robust growth for the past, a decade or so. Now, to sustain that, now so far it has been labor intensive, low cost of labor, and therefore, certain jobs were coming to India, particularly in IT. Now that growth cannot be sustained because the Vietnams are coming, Philippines are coming, other countries are coming with lower cost. And therefore, India needs to now go to more skill-based, knowledge-intensive human talent. And unless we pivot to that, India will not be able to sustain that. Another thing I've learned, I spent 7 years in Japan. Everything I learned about Japan has changed in the last 20 years. Japan was at times, considered to be #2 economy in the world, heading to be #1, Japan is #1. And right now, Japan is nowhere there. Everything in the last 4 years, and without naming names, everything that we knew about USA has changed. Politically, economically, socially, health-wise, racially, a lot of things changed in the last 3.5 years. So the question then is that how do we stay relevant on a timely basis? So innovating is important. Incremental improvement is not sufficient. And I spent 40 years of my life innovating, which means radical change, because everybody else is improving. And if India needs to leapfrog, it has to innovate. It has to radically change. It has to have the courage to take the risk. In the past, India has not been taking risks. In the past, we were limited by resources. 4% Hindu growth rate left very little additional surplus for growth. And now at 8 to 10%, we have money, we have resources, and corporate world is thriving. We have more and more billionaires in the country. Now, I relate to your perspective that, the new education policy talks about a holistic policy. So I call it a prism. We need to educate our students, empower our students to learn about the physical world, the material world, the financial world. They cannot graduate without knowing what's going on. So we need science and technology. And you referred to all the growth in technology. Second part, they need to know the relational world. You talked about emotional intelligence. They need to know how to contribute to social capital. Third, they need to know intellectual capability because they have to have the analytical skills to crunch the numbers and derive the juice out of, the facts. Now, what is not stressed in the past, and I think new education policy is highlighting, is to focus on the mind. We must stop the chattering of our mind and distraction of our youth from the noises out there so that they're not focused. You talked about ADD. My wife was a special ed teacher. US has developed a lot of skills on attention deficit disorder and specialty students. Now, the fifth part is where India can take a world-class lead, and that is the spiritual aspect. We can, through interfaith and focus on spirituality. I and Anil are very active in this Academy of Management group, and Satinder K, on management, spirituality, and religion.
And Sharda.
And Dr. Amar also, and Sharda. We all are.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Same tribe.
Right.
Same
So
tribe.
I'm a newbie, so I'm still learning. So now, the role of spirituality and religion, most business schools in the United States will hesitate. I cannot mention it. When I mention spirituality, some students hear religion, and they'll complain to the department chair, and the department chair hears religion. So we need to figure out a way to integrate with what really empowers us. If you're talking about empowering students, we got to go to that empowerment.
Yes.
All right.
So,
Now,
Rameshji,
so how much time do I have? 10 minutes?
See, we can come back. We can just state our initial position, and then because we will see how certain thought positions develop. For example, you made a very good point that the degree should be like education should be a verb, not a noun. That's a very good point. I have always felt that when we give diplomas or degrees to our students, it should say in the red ink, like a diagonally, it should say learner's permit.
Right.
Now, and you put it on your wall and you look at it every day and you say, yes, now I have this master's, PhD, or whatever degree, I have the permission to learn. This is the concept that we need. And you very rightly pointed out about Japan. I mean, there was a time when, when we say made in Japan, and still that is a sort of upholder of quality. But as in the race of economic first, second hood, Japan has lagged now because even change has changed. That is the point that we have to keep in mind. Then you talked about, we need disruptive change, disruptive technologies. So a lot of good points, and we are going to revisit that. Now on spirituality, I must say that in 1997, when I first started teaching a course in the MBA program right here in US, and the course was spirituality in the workplace. So there was no misunderstanding on anybody's part. It took a lot of heavy lifting right. And we have taught that course is now a part of the MBA program. And I have taught that class every summer for last more than 20 years. And to tell you the truth, students come back after 10, 15 years, and they say, Professor, that class in which you raise the questions, what is the ultimate meaning of life? Why are we here? Why a leader has to be a good human being? Why those questions, were the most important questions for them to help. And now I would like to go to Dr. Amar, because he was a pioneer in terms of bringing Bhagavad Gita teachings to the school and the university. And actually, this is how I discovered him. I was doing some research on Bhagavad Gita and America and the universities, and his name came up. So I contacted him, and then we became friends, and we did some work together. We also published a book together on managing for the for Bhagavad Gita and management, or managing from the Bhagavad Gita. So Dr. Amar, please share with us, how has your experience been in America? Because Rameshji is saying that, there was a challenge, and there is a challenge, different universities, different location, but let's hear Dr. Amar's experience. And that is a step towards holistic education which is also intellectual, which is also emotional, and which is also financial, technological, all of that, holistic. Professor Amar.
It was my pleasure that Satinder discovered me. And following that, I discovered so much. So definitely it was a great pleasure. And I know I came to America just for education, because I was so much in love with India's past and ancient India in every aspect. And I thought I was coming to America just to get education and then go back and work in India. And somehow Americans managed to keep me here. And there are several people who will take the credit or blame or whatever it is. But I want education really over several things, but the model I am presenting here about education is, remember, the most important thing is survival. Survival of the self, and survival is for your survival. And education should focus first on how are we going to teach our students or whomsoever we are teaching. And I was very young when I read about Kautilya and Chandragupta Maurya and Maurya dynasty, and came to Takshila University. And I was so impressed by the education system of Takshila University, and seeing how students came to Takshila from all over the world, and all states sponsored number of students, and they contributed the budget of the university based on how many seats they wanted to have in the university. It had development. And when we look at India, it was 700 BC when Takshila University was founded. And
you did some research on it, Amar. I remember you did some publication on that field. Yeah.
That is right. And also it is part of my doing business in India course, which requires going to India during the spring break.
Excellent.
So here, first focus is on survival of self. That means, like Satinder said, in fact, this is first time I heard, but that shloka, I will ask Satinder to send me that shloka so I can go directly to the source. But right now, quoting Satinder, when he said, education is to set you free. I mean, that really caught on to me. And I guess I am going to be using it in so many places. So setting free is also making you or teaching you how you are going to survive. Animals can survive also. And animals get their training and their education from certain ways, which really is less of our concern. But then education should expand to the survival and benefit of those who are dependent on us, our children, our families, and then it expands further. Education has to include how are we going to take care of our community, our nation, and our globe, our world, everything. So now from this model, you can keep on expanding and you will find exactly the spots that will tell you what to cover and what not to cover and what should be there or not. And I say here, I in the Indian system, in the Indian gods and Indian, I don't want to use the word mythology because mythology then means it's all myth and we are building around myth. And it's, to me, it's not mythology. It is more like the past, the culture and whatever. So when we look at our past leaders and gurus and God or whatever, they all carry arms. They're, whether it is Krishna, it is Rama, it is Vishnu, or whatever, they are equipped with an arm for protection. Vishnu is going to use his chakra and used couple of times, and Krishna had to use his chakra to stop, what was his name, Jashpal, who really wouldn't stop cursing him. And he said, after 100 times, I gave your mother a promise, and if you exceed that 101, I am going to take. So that means education should also cover this is ability to physically protect yourself. And I went through this and I really liked it. These 4 pages are worth, you can write 4 books on them, even more than 4 books on them. So it's very ambitious, very holistic, and very integrative. There are a few things I would like to tell about this, which can probably be considered by you, and then you make the decision what you want. First, I would say uh, America's model is not 100% right. And so we have to take from America everything with grain of salt and see if it does suit the Indian system or not. And I would still say going back to the past and going into the ancient writing and Vedas and how these ancient universities in India were managed and run. Even some they just discovered in Odisha and another university that is also like millennium year old and all. How did they run? And take from them. But at the same time, we can't live in the past. We have to go by the standards of the world and somehow excel in them, fit in them, learn about them. And when I saw like giving classification to university, I compared it to the Carnegie Foundation classification. And I found out you gave 3 classifications: research universities, teaching universities, and autonomous degree granting colleges like professional colleges and all that. I thought this classification is narrow and maybe needs to be doubled up or even more than doubled up. First, like Carnegie Foundation says, there is R1, which is the top most universities whose main bread and butter is research. Because
Research.
remember, survival also requires I leave my future in the hands of those who would be able to keep it, who will be able to grow it, whether these are my children, my grandchildren, or even those generations that will come after that. So we want to say there are some institutes that are so heavily into research that they contribute to knowledge and draw less but give more. And that is what Carnegie calls R1. Then there is R2, that is a mix of the two. And then there are like those who are going to be simply emphasizing teaching, and that too has classes in there. And professional colleges whose practice, for whom practice orientation is the main thing, whether it is law or it is medicine or engineering or whatever else. And then I also have some suggestions I made and some questions I decided to raise is that there are, for example, you said 4-year integrated institution that may have several exits, means someone wants to exit after 1 year or 2 year or 3 year, and rather than calling them college dropouts, you give them some degree and let them go. I saw this in the PhD program because they found out not every person who joins PhD program is worth getting a PhD or is suited for PhD. But then they may be spending, like typically business PhD in United States takes 5 years. And that is after graduate program like MBA or MS or whatever you do. So bringing it down to the level of undergraduate, I am not sure. You may have to reconsider that. I mean, 3-year or 4-year. In America, it is 4-year model. In India, it is 3-year or 4-year model. And I am not sure if less than that is enough to get education that may be sufficient for a person to survive. Then, like coming back to Satinder's point, education is to set you free, or purpose of education should be to set you free, and free in every aspect. I also see, and Ramesh made point of that, there is no coverage of spiritual education in all these 4 pages I looked at. If there is something else somewhere, then maybe I have incomplete information.
No, that 66-page document has spirituality.
Yeah, and it should also include about religion. Now, I don't know, in India, somehow religion word is no. Everywhere, no. We have, because from like 1192 AD, India has been enslaved and has remained slave until 1947. And some say, and that was actually Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a Harvard professor who was ambassador of India. And when BJP took over, he said, for the first time since 1192, and these are his words, since 1192, Hindus have taken over their country. And you will see the changes they will make. And those changes are going to bring them back to what they had been doing before that time. So this document I was going through, it actually took me to that time and to that quote. But look at, I work for a Catholic university, and I started here in 1983, completing my 38th year at Seton Hall University. And the board wanted, because it is a Catholic university, board wanted, how could we have a university where there is lack of religion and lack of religious education? And they then said, we will put in all the resources, all the money, and we want to come up with some kind of coverage of religion. Their goal was Catholicism. Obviously, they said, it is Catholic university, why there is no Catholic education? And in fact, until then, we had no priests around, and we had no religious education. Now, from 1999 to 2006, for 6-7 years, so many people, we invited so many from outside and so many from inside to come and hundreds of people will be engaged and trying to understand how to cover religion and spirituality in education, where we want to, like, again, using Satinder's quote, is our purpose is to set them free. And religion brings in bindings. Religion brings in dogma. Religion brings in hindrance to people's growth and development. How could we do the two together? How could we put two together? When I learned how important was this particular task the university was considering, I, uh, I was invited. I refused. I did not want to get engaged. When I found out what they're doing, I said, I am in. And I came back and joined. For 5 years, constantly, we were not agreed to how are we going to do it. And then I have always been emphasizing, how do you say religion was born when Jesus Christ decided to have a religion? Humans had been existing for several millennia before Jesus Christ was born. They learned how to live, they learned how to survive, they learned how to continue. Why don't we go back and see what did they do and how to bring that into what we are doing here in a Catholic university? And that, again, took a lot of time, because it's not easy to change minds of people who are so trained and educated, like professors in a university, and then priests who have been who took vows to carry a certain dogma and carry a certain philosophy and thinking. So then one of my colleagues who was sitting with me all the time, a Columbia PhD and a devout Catholic, his mother passed away. And somehow, I don't know what happened, some light came in him, a calling came in him. Sitting next to me, he said, Amar, today we are going to go your route. And I said, okay, what is that route? Because they knew they needed my vote, they needed my blessing, they needed my pressure. Otherwise, this thing is not going to work. He said, we are going to expand. We will take away from dogma, and education at Seton Hall University will be where Catholicism will be central, not exclusive. We will bring in other. And that is how they accepted to include Bhagavad Gita as a mandatory reading. Every student from freshman year onwards has to read Bhagavad Gita. And first, several professors had already read it, and they were impressed. And that just changed. And in the next 1 year, we had a curriculum that was ready to be in place in 2007. So that is what I am emphasizing here for India when the new education policy is coming along, to set people free, set their minds free, and let them think for themselves. And there is nothing wrong in any religion that we should not espouse. We can learn from everybody. I even learn from animals. I watch animals, birds, and I see, look at, this is the way to do things, and all that. So I would say, and whatever you want me to do in any form, like Gulshan Sharma, you said, and I believe you are Punjabi, because you talked about Punjab so many times. And with Satinder and I don't know about Ramesh. we are making here, we are making our Punjab here.
We will make Ramesh Punjabi soon if he hangs around.
And don't forget, don't forget, Takshila University was in Punjab.
Right.
And when Alexander came, it was Punjabis who stopped him and sent him back. And he could not even reach back home. And one of the things I tell my students, Multan, when he was passing Multan, and Multanis were giving him so much trouble. And Multani said, don't worry, we will not let you pass, because when he was retreating, they don't want to make his retreat easy, because they don't want any person like him to come back and try to attack India. And so that is where they pierced his skin with an arrow. And when he was going back, he said, because he had complete medical team with him and all thinkers and philosophers. So they said he'll be cured. And Multanis told him, no one is saved once our arrow pierces that skin. And that is what happened. So Indians knew how to survive. Indians knew how to protect. Indians knew what education is and how to educate. And I am really pleased. I can go on forever, for days and nights and months and years talking about India and what India has done. In fact, India built the whole world. And the first millennium BCE is the time when India gave everything to the whole world. Count anything. Science, astronomy, education, medicine, everything came from India during the first millennium BCE, I should say, before the Common Era. And world civilization began, or Western civilization began, in the first century AD. So where is the foundation? Foundation is the first millennium BCE, and that was India's time. And before that was all India's time.
You're very right, Amarji. With this, you have brought so many thought positions. And this particular, see, my role is a sutradhar. I can only speak in sutras. And that was a sutra. Sa vidya ya vimuktaye. That is education which makes one free. Now, that freedom is not only the freedom to behave in the world in the sense, who is a free person? I ask this question to my MBA class all the time. I ask them, who is a free person? Is a free person who has constitutional right to be free, like in America? Or freedom is a state of mind? A free person is one who lives his or her life with minimum psychological baggage. A person who is open, that person is free. Because anytime, that's why Sharma ji, hamare bade bhai, to I do some dillagi with him. तो हम उनसे कुछ दिल्लगी भी कर लेते हैं. So I tell him, share with him that I personally do not belong to any party, any dal, because all dals are dal, you know. So we like to stay from all dals, you know. So there is another thing that we have to understand, that the ultimate purpose of life. See, this is the beauty. And you, both of you, Rameshji and Amarji, you have already beautifully articulated that we need to draw upon roots. Education is only about two things, roots and wings.
Yeah.
If the student brings the roots, we can give them the wings. हम उनको उड़ान के लिए, वो जैसे वो परिंदा उड़ जाता है ऊपर, हैं?
Freedom. That's freedom. You set them free.
Yes. तुम दिए बादे मुखालिफ से ना घबराए उकाब. Ukab is a particular bird which flies very high. So the poet says, do not be afraid of tunde mukhalif, the air, the wind which is flowing in opposite direction. Tundiye bade mukhalif se na ghabraye ukab. O bird, do not be afraid of the winds flowing in opposite direction to your flying. Tundiye bade mukhalif se na ghabraye ukab. Ye to aati hai tujhe uncha udane ke liye. This should be the frame of mind, that the opposing winds are coming to make you soar higher in life. This is Vimukta, Sa Vidya Ya Vimukta. One more sutra, and then we will go to Professor Sharda and then Professor Anulji about their wonderful thoughts. In Indian philosophy, one of the most fascinating part is this. It is called Swadhyay. What a beautiful word. There is no language in the world, there is no philosophy in the world which can capture the beauty of the word Swadhyay. And our scriptures say, Swadhyay ma pramada. ma meaning in Sanskrit means no. In Japanese, you know, since Rameshji was there, the word mu is means no in Japan, and words wu means no in China. So ma swadhyay ma pramada, meaning we should not do pramada. We should not be forgetful of swadhyay. What a beautiful thing! And the injunction is asupte mrite kale. From the time that you are going to bed, asupte mrite kale, nayed vedanta chinte. One should ponder over the truths of Vedanta. From the time they wake up in the morning till the time they go to the bed and till the time they die. That is the injunction to us. Nayed Vedanta Chinte.
Satinder, you should become Satinder Swami. How much Sanskrit did you learn? Formal education in Sanskrit?
Zero. I was not wise enough at the time. I chose drawing over Sanskrit because everybody said drawing is easier during that time. So all I'm doing, Amarji, I am trying to fill gaps in my education. That's what the beauty is. You know, that gap was left in my education. So sitting at the feet of my teachers, I tried to learn few things here and there. And I tell you, there is no Sanskriti without Sanskrit, as Rajiv Malhotra always says. So with that, I'm going to go to Professor Sharda to help us understand and welcome.
Namaskar, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. I also admire Taksashila's history and Kautilya's Arthashastra. Actually, I wrote a book in Dutch on Kautilya's work, small, 200 pages book. And it has been received very well. That was about 10 years ago here in the Netherlands. I was born in Suriname, which is in South America. Suriname was a colony of the Netherlands. So when I was 19, I left the country, and I'm here now in the Netherlands for many years. But as Satinder ji said, you are filling the gaps. Actually, the same thing happened to me. I studied psychology, then I started to do my PhD, then I felt that, still I'm seeking something. And I felt like my body was here, but the mind was somewhere else. So I went to study economics, the whole thing. I mean, the bachelor, the master, and still it was not complete.
Pardon me just for a second.
Yeah.
Gulshan ji, are you recording this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And you will share with us.
It's on YouTube. It's in public domain right now.
Oh, live.
So this program is going live, sir. The people are watching world over, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm glad to know that, because I find so many interesting things in what she's saying, and that again shows education. Suriname birth, Indian descent, Netherlands, writing 200-page book on Kautilya's Arthashastra. You have educated your children very well, India.
Yes.
Thank you,
yes.
sir. Thank you.
This is a very special panel, very special panel.
What then happened was that in 2008, I started to travel. Actually, my first travel to India was 1990. This was many years ago. And then 2008, I started to travel to learn more about my roots, about spirituality. I was giving a presentation at, I think it was the World Spirituality Conference, Psychology and Spirituality. And actually, from that moment, I felt that I have to be there to fill the gaps that I could not find in the country I'm living, and to understand deeper aspects, because my work was a lot with entrepreneurs in management. And I said, everyone says entrepreneurs are only looking at money, and actually behind the entrepreneur, there is a human being. So what are the deep drivers? So for me, I started to go to India, and it was 2 or 3 times in the year. I've learned a lot. I've met different gurus. I have been taught more deeply yoga. I started yoga here as well, but I mean, it completed my being. So I would always say that, you know, this Trinity from Hinduism, I say, okay, you know, I was born in Suriname, so the creation aspect is related to Suriname. I'm maintaining the things here, doing the things what I need to do for my duty, and develop, you know, in education, other people, help developing them. But with India, as you know, having that as a foundation, it helps me a lot. And I recently, 3 years ago, I wrote a book with the title, Be at Home Wherever You Are. Because my message there is that you can study a lot, but if you don't know yourself, your roots, then you can't feel at home. So if people start asking me, are you Indian? Are you Dutch? Are you Surinamese? Who am I? So I started to really reflect on that deeper aspect. So what I want to share regarding the question that Satinder ji had was, okay, what is the purpose of education? Okay, philosophically, we can say it's about freedom. I would say, indeed, what do we have to do as educators? We have to facilitate so that people become more self-managed. What I notice is that people are not using their natural instincts, their common sense anymore. We have forgotten those aspects. So to facilitate that we become self-managed is such an important thing, because then you can solve the problems or part of the problems. What I always appreciate about India is, if you look at the scriptures, of course, this holistic education. I should also say I'm Hindu spirituality and society professor in the Vrije University. So from that perspective, I've been looking at more deeply into scriptures. And I see that there is a lot in India present, but somehow Indians are trying to look abroad. What is there abroad and what should we copy? And what I've noticed, I'm teaching also in Banastali Vidyapith, women's university, and they have this Panj Mukhi Shiksha, so 5-folded education. And I think Dr. Ramesh ji said it, that, you know, you have to build on several levels, and we do that over there. The cognitive part, the aesthetics part with art, the other aspects, emotional part, the social part, you know, how to socialize, the social intelligence part. So there are many of those layers, and the physical part also with sports. So I think that's important to know, okay, what do we have? What can we learn from abroad? But it's not just copying and pasting it. Like my involvement, I have been helping to set up a home healthcare company in India. Our healthcare company, Buurtzorg, is a best practice, and there are many people coming from all over the world to learn. But we can't just, you know, bring the same principles over there. You have to contextualize this. So local is the word which is appropriate to say, okay, actually you can learn, you have to connect with the global, because we are not living in a vacuum, but you have to very much be proud of your local indigenous, you know, knowledge, culture, and try to build from there. So I think India has a lot to give. We have to go and talk about resourcing, going back to the sources, finding what is the roots saying to us, and how can we help also the youth understand that why that is important. I have read the document, so let me go on that, because otherwise I will be talking too much about my own life history, which may be interesting for another webinar. But But I thought when I saw the document, there is this split making universities, teaching universities and research universities. I would not be in favor of that. Why is it? We have here universities in the Netherlands, and we have we call them hogescholen in Dutch, which is the universities of applied sciences. You can say the polytechnics maybe. And that was really some kind of split, saying that, the University of Applied Sciences would go for the vocational part, the skills, the competencies, and the universities will be, more higher education, research related. And what we notice is that it's actually now past 10 years, all the University of Applied Sciences are coming back or are trying to bring research to their agenda. Without research, it's not complete. So I don't think that split would be very interesting. What we see though in the Netherlands is that any university, we try to also give these research masters. So you create the possibility that if people want to be fully focused in research, you create that research masters within your discipline. I like that multidisciplinary approach in the document. One way to do that would be the way we do here, we talk about minors, 6 months program that, from whatever discipline you come, you can do a minor, and that will, free or give you some more space. Like now we have a minor in which I teach yoga and business. So even people from different other universities can join and do that. So that will open up that multidisciplinary aspect that we are looking for. One thing I've noticed, it's the stress on research, which is very important. I think basically many, my own experience with researchers in India is that it's not highest priority in writing papers. Or recently I'm doing editing work for the Journal of Management, Spirituality and Religion. And there are many good thoughts, but people are really expressing their thoughts very well. But that skill of writing academic papers is not everywhere present. And I think that would be a good thing to consider when it comes to research. One thing I don't think it's a good idea, it is mentioned that there will be many extra bodies, boards, accreditation bodies, many extra layers of institutions will be built up, which will make it too complex. And now we will complain that we don't want the businesses to tell us what we need to teach. But I think if we follow this document, it will be the accreditation body who is going to tell us what we have to teach. And the accreditation body makes it too much complex. And actually it takes out that natural improvising aspect which teachers bring. And if you want to standardize, if you want to go for accreditation, you have to standardize a lot. And with that standardization, there is a lot or less space for that holistic aspect which we have in education. Because you want to see, okay, what extra dimension a person needs. And sometimes you can't put it all in grades, reflection reports, self-reflections and all. How will you standardize a lot of these things? One thing, it was like, okay, how do we empower teachers? I would say creating visiting professorships will be helpful to go abroad or go within India to another university and see how things are being done, learn from that. What we have here now in the Netherlands, it's, I think, about 10 years ago, it has been this BKO, we call it basiskwalificatie onderwijs. So without that qualification, we are not allowed to teach. So in that qualification, you build that self-assessment, you say, how much did you teach? How did you teach? What is your action plan for the coming years? And there is a mentor who is helping you to build that qualification. So those kinds of things can be brought in, so that you can strengthen that the teachers' foundations. Let me see if I've left something else. There was, because you were asking also about best practices. I think that element of yoga is much more a thing of, seems outside India than in India. We had started summer courses, I think in 2011, 2007 already in the business school, because I'm also teaching at a business university. And were summer courses on business and spirituality, or business and entrepreneurship. And people really liked all the new dimensions that you bring in. If you say, okay, what is spirituality about? And you don't have to bring in terminology which will be, polarizing, things like too much on this is a religion, for example. It's sometimes it can be very difficult to bring in that. But what I've noticed is if you bring in spirituality, it opens up much more, because people easily accept that we are all spiritual beings, and religiousness is usually connected to religious institutions. And I think if you talk about spirituality, then somehow there are some levels where we talk about connecting, which is beyond the words that we use. And at that level, irrespective of the races, you connect. So spirituality, I've noticed for businesses as well as for students, can be something they are looking for, but it should be connected to what they are with the world. I mean, it should be not a separate thing. It should be very much integratively built in the type of topics that they are dealing with. And I think technology is something we can't ignore. So also when we talk about technology, I think that aspect of, okay, how much of our humanness still is important when we talk about the role of artificial intelligence or other big technologies which are being developed at the moment. So I think coming back to the purpose of education, facilitating that people can become, again, maybe we would say self-managed, because if you are able to manage yourself, and self-managed can be at different levels, it can be, solving your problems, but can be also managing the self, the deeper self. From that perspective, I think also the youth would be interested, because the youth is seeking for, guidance. And we can't stay in the type of, approaches which, by saying, okay, the Bhagavad Gita is an interesting text or interesting, inspiring, teachings, but maybe the youth is searching for the same type of knowledge, but in a different way. So we have to always connect it to the topics that they are dealing with in the classrooms. I think that would be enough from my side for this moment, and I hope it was useful. Thank you.
Yes, Shardaji, you have given us so much food for thought, and thank you for your presence, and thank you for teaching classes like yoga and business. I always feel that in my own research on spirituality in the workplace, over the last 30 plus years, I discovered something very fascinating, and I think it's a good thing to keep in mind. The hardcore CEOs in the boardroom, they will not like to have this word mentioned, the S word, but on the side, catch them on the side, outside the meeting, outside the boardroom, there will be the confession time. So somehow, as you very well mentioned, we need to find a common platform, a common language, maybe, if you will, wherein we can bring those spiritual thought positions from the monastery to the boardroom, if I may use those words. And those are very important. And you very rightly mentioned about multicultural, multidisciplinary approach. Why? Because the present day problems are very complex, and they cannot be solved with one domain expertise. You cannot say, I'm an engineer, so I will solve the problem, or I'm a social scientist, I will solve the problems, right? Now, the yoga has become such a commonplace word. You know, we get 2 or 3 emails every day about, yoga, because people are getting Zoom fatigue, and lo and behold, yoga is, allow me quickly to share a very interesting thought position within Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, the word yoga and its cognates come about 150 times. 150 times. But at 2 or 3 places, Lord Krishna really zeroes in on the essence of it. I will quickly point out those 2 or 3 places in Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 2, Shloka 48 and 50, and in chapter 6, Shloka 23. In chapter 2, 48, 50, basically it is said, Yoga Karamsu Kaushalam. Yoga is excellence in action. This is what Aristotle talks about. Many years later, hundreds of years later, after Bhagavad Gita is talking about that. Yoga Karamsu Kaushalam. Yoga is excellence in action. To our youth, we can say, there is no glory in doing second-rate work, in doing shoddy work. So whatever you choose to do, you have to do an excellent job in whatever you do. So that definition comes true in normal life. Who will take issue with becoming an excellent person? Nobody will. And Bhagavad Gita says, when you do that skillfully, you are yogi. But now you can say, how about a person like a sniper? Is that a yogi? How about a thief who is very skillful? Is that a yogi? Bhagavad Gita says no, because the important definition is dharmic activity. The activity has to be righteous. The activity should be good for the society. Lok sangrah api tu karhasi. That is the injection. And then it is told that samatva yoga uchyate. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is the evenness of mind. Now I'm building this sort of ground for Anil, because Anil ji is going to come and share his thoughts about what great things he's doing. But let me pause here, just say, yoga samatva uchyate. When a person is able, you see, we talk about emotional intelligence. When I go to India, I talk about emotional maturity from Bhagavad Gita, which is the prakarana in chapter 2nd, Sthit Pragya Prakarana, from 255 to 278, chapter 2nd. In that, 18 shlokas, which were very sort of favorite of Mahatma Gandhi ji, and his day has just, we have celebrated. So this is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. If one is able to get that samatva, what is samatvam? Samatvam is when somebody is having good time, you don't become arrogant. And when somebody is having tough time, you don't lose patience. Sabr, asabr. So that is samatva. But these are not the definitions of yoga. There is only one place in Bhagavad Gita, only one place where yoga is very precisely defined. And from there, we will go to analogy. And that is at chapter 6, Shloka 23. And it is mentioned, this is the Sangya. The word Sangya is used, meaning the name of the yoga is like that. Yoga, how is it defined? Dukh, Sanyog, Viyog, Yoga Sangyana. That teaching, we do not want sorrow. Dukh, Sanyog, Viyog. Any teaching which separates us from sorrow. Atyantik dukh nivritti purvak sukh prapti, in simple Hindi. Dukh sanyog meaning your attachment or your being one with dukkha. Any teaching which separates you from your continuous attachment with dukkha, which takes all the dukkha apart, that self-knowledge. And that's why Lord Krishna says, understand what's wrong with Arjuna's problem, and gives him self-knowledge, because only self-knowledge can lead to the removal of sorrow. So with those simple kind of connecting sutradhar words, And you said something very beautiful about art. I will, after Anilji presents something, and our dear friend Sharma ji also mentioned about Sangeet. I will share some things, why Sangeet is also important. Where is the in our Vedas, they talk about the beauty, because Sangeet is also, music is also a complete path. It can connect us to the ultimate reality. But before that, I will hold on to those thoughts, but I will go to Anilji for his enlightening presentation. This is a topic, we all can talk all day,
I think, so that's what I was thinking. I was getting prepared with all the comments, but like there are beautiful comments coming. And I thought the main thing is it's very blissful to have us all together. Just as satsang itself is education, at least for us and probably for the listeners. I don't know how much you are going to influence the policy. Minister's already laid out the policy. The important thing is to hear our own journeys, own stories, and maybe some of them can be prototypes of people who are, listening, teachers or others who might listen later. So this is education in the highest form. Upanishad is to sit down and listen to me. This is Upanishad. We are telling our stories, and in every way that we have lived our lives. And it's beautiful that everybody has lived in a different way. The life experience is so different. So there is really no standard way of life. That's what I feel. And my journey has gone through various places and brought me for the last 8 years to Maharishi International University. We are the home of consciousness-based education. And, consciousness means that infinite awareness, unbounded awareness, which is what we are, Brahma, I can say. And I feel, and my job is the easiest. I can just channel what Maharshi said. I don't have to think so much. Consciousness is the unified field of all the laws of nature. We are that awareness, and we can transcend from a surface level of reality to that infinite awareness where we can experience everything, total bliss in ourselves. And that's kind of our Vedic way of knowledge. And I think, what does the teacher do? Teacher is the guru. Guru just wakes us up to the fact that there is a reality underlying that whole surface reality of billiard balls, where all are different colors, sizes, hardness, velocity, weight, all that stuff. If we can understand that that just even be aware that there is a reality underneath, and we learn to transcend, there is no way beyond, without meditation. And you talked of Satinderji and Sharda, you talked about yoga. Yoga is 8-limbed, and the 7th limb is dhyan. And so without dhyan, there is no real yoga. I mean, of course, you can transcend on any limb and on any sense property. Of course, we can go into that for a long time. Idea that you just have to transcend to that level where you're one, where Aham Brahmasmi, and everybody is Brahm, Tattam Tvamasi. You are also Brahm, Sarvakal Vidam Brahma. Everybody is Brahma. So living that life of infinity is the ultimate education. I think that's the goal of all consciousness-based education. Here we teach in a way that Maharishi wanted to teach. And he said, all ultimate knowledge is the knowledge of the self. Why do we learn anything? We learn because we want to know ourselves, because we are that unbounded. And so therefore, when we teach, everything is connected to the infinite, to the transcendental level of consciousness. So the very first course everybody takes in our college, no matter what degree you come for, undergrad, PhD, master's, any technology or management or art or whatever, is called the Science of Technology and Consciousness, where you are explained from Maharshi's own lectures as to what is the consciousness. And then they taught the techniques of transcendental meditation, which helps you touch that infinite awareness where freedom is automatic. You're talking about having less emotional baggage. The baggage is dissolved. You don't solve a problem, you dissolve the problem. That is how consciousness-based education would work. So at some point, when you do practice of that, you feel naturally calm. Life is very VUCA, to use Sharda's that title of a book, what is called volatile, uncertain, etc., etc. So the idea that in this world, there is no certainty, and how do we get comfortable with the certainty? And here I would say I'm absolutely pathetic with uncertainty. I went to IIT Delhi, I went to IIM Ahmedabad, and those courses, the lowest score was, highest score was uncertainty avoidance. You had to take some inventories, etc. And tolerance to ambiguity was another dimension. My score was the lowest. I'm an engineer, hardcore engineer. I need to have this thing. Doing this will lead to this. If somebody says you study here, 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 then you would be, whatever your success formula is, that should happen. Guess what? It doesn't happen like that. You think you join a big company and they will take you? Guess what? They will fire you. All these big companies will give you very, very false sense of security. Ultimate security is what Sharda said, which is self-management, knowing ourselves, knowing ourselves. That's where transcendence and management of self is very, very important. There's nothing bigger than knowing yourself, not knowing yourself in terms of your color, size in the mirror, but the mirror, the mind itself is the mirror. Whether you do transcendental meditation or you do Vipassana or you do any kind of meditation technique, you should do meditation. That's part of knowing yourself. So that is the biggest part of it. Now, in terms of the actual scaling up of this thing, I think the main thing is that we have to understand what a teacher is. Earlier, we used to call them gurus. And how is a guru different from a teacher? And I gave this talk at National Teachers Congress 2.5 years ago in Pune. One thing I drew was that guru does many, many roles. Of course, he's a teacher. He communicates the known knowledge to the other people. But guru was also the cognizer of new knowledge, right? And so therefore, he was a researcher, or she was a researcher. And then the guru was also mentor. You went to the guru to, get advice on what should I do here or there. And the guru was also administrator. The guru ran the ashram. And when I said four, so there may be more roles. So the guru is complete when you have a complete sense of the mundane, the transcendental, the communication part, all of that stuff, all the dimensions we talked of, 5, 6, 7 layers, emotional, social, various kind of intelligences fit into the person of the guru. And the guru commands that respect when the guru himself or herself is whole. Only, Purna Mada, Purna Midam, Purna Ujachate, Purnasya Purnimadaya, Purnameva Vishishyate. Only from wholeness come wholeness. And from wholeness, when wholeness comes, you don't become any less. The wholeness really expands. So we need to create, my talk was teach from wholeness for bliss. Now the question was, what is the purpose of education? To live a blissful life. We're naturally blissful. If we understand our divine nature, we are very blissful. At the underlying level where we are unbounded consciousness, we are very naturally blissful. And everybody can be blissful. So the point is that we should first of all educate people to learn their divine nature. It is a great conspiracy at many levels to deny people that knowledge. But every spiritual leader from Christ and, of course, our Indian leaders, Hindu, have said, transcend, get to that level without the gunas, without that sort of specific qualities. First of all, you are the divine spark. We are just awareness. We are not the physical existence. So making people aware of that is very, very important. 2 days ago, I was listening, just shifting gears to more technology and the sources, etc., because teachers do need that. I was hearing there is a conference going on from Arizona State University. Fortunately, it's free. So Zoom is a great technology which is making it available. And there was a talk by this guy called Baiju Surendran, whatever his last name is. But Baiju is a company called Baiju, B-Y-J-U-S. He is, people in India would know, right, that Baiju is the biggest education technology company. This kid comes from a government school in a village in Kerala, where having a teacher itself is a great thing, or a teacher attending is a big deal. And he says clearly, everything I learned from the playing ground. He's saying that to the whole audience. His education technology company is the biggest. He's fated in the whole conference as $11 billion education tech company coming from India. And he said, everything I learned from the playing ground. So all this thing that we put them into a classroom, the whole class itself, what's a classroom in this whole thing? There is a classification, class 1, 2 thing. All of that is going away. Ms. Subrata, you mentioned Subrata's thing, right? Put the kids in front of a machine, what do you call a hole in a wall experience, right, Gulshan? You just put it there. The kids figure out what they need to know, what are they excited about, what they want to learn, and who they want to learn with. They make friends in the process. Learning about other people is just as much of learning as everything else. And I think mostly in playing grounds, you learn about how to get along with others, how to beat the other team, etc. And it's not such that you go to, everybody thinks you go to IITs or this place and you will be a great, successful person. Yeah, successful in one dimension, that you could become a very one-dimensional person. Life is actually so fuller that you really need to be, kindled. And that goes to our favorite teacher, my respects great to Abdul Kalam Sahab. I had the privilege of just 2 months ago speaking at Kalam Technical University in Lucknow, apparently the only university named in his name. And I was so privileged. And I spoke to like a few hundred teachers, and I said, Kalam Sahab is the one said the mind is the what is the candle to be lighted. And then Tamsoma Jyotirgamya. That is what our knowledge says. We just take somebody from darkness of just being, just groping in the dark of the physicality, and then feeling completely dissatisfied, going to a level where when your light is there, voila, I'm light, I'm that whole thing. So very many stories of how Kalam Sahab himself, managed to do with very little resources. He managed the entire missile development program. So people are able to do fantastic things. As Shraddha was saying, we can do many things. People can solve the problems. So we can solve the problem by dissolving the problems. We always think solving the problems in a very engineering-ish way. Just the problem vanishes when your perspective changes. And changing the perspective requires us to move away from the physical sort of existence of body consciousness to a more divine consciousness. And I think this is India's gift to the world. I mean, I've done Vipassana for dozens of years. I've been in this, I've done Transcendental meditation for 30 plus years. I've done TM Siddhis. I've had a moksha moment. I've written about that. I'm very privileged about that. I feel very privileged to have had that experience. And that's why I'm very excited to communicate this consciousness-based education formula to everybody. And I've written some textbooks, again, written from this whole wholeness out perspective. And it resonates because people can get something in 1 minute, can get it 10 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, depends how much you want to unfold. Vedas can be understood from the very first shloka, or you can just take forever, many lifetimes to understand Vedas. That's where I would say the policy is good if it's holistic and it allows for grassroots innovation. If I could just leave with the statement which I wanted to start with, I just thought I'll write down just as a wholeness, because we believe in wholeness. Can you see this chart? If you can see it, I would say my goal is to teach from natural law, or consciousness for bliss. Objective function should be bliss. If life is not blissful, it doesn't matter what you have or not have, right? Life should be blissful. It can be blissful here and now. I would say education is expansion of consciousness of the individual to divine heights, so they can take care of themselves and society. Ideally, highly educated individuals, pursuing especially higher education, will experience great bliss for themselves and expand in happiness and peace. Which you talk about world peace. That's kind of what we live for. That's the 2 words that make me get up every morning. World peace. It's possible by collective transcendence. World peace. This can be achieved, again, by well-trained and empowered gurus, where the teachers are empowered and well-trained, working with adequate resources, technology, non-technology, others, time, facilities, training motivated students. Now, motivated is kindred student, or maybe I should have said, in the context of the local environment, right? The needs should be local, the resources should be local. You don't have to say, oh, until I get something from Calcutta, I cannot teach in Hooghly. It doesn't make sense. Ultimately, everyone will be able to realize, should be able to realize the full potential, their full potential, and experience the Vedantic truth of Aham Brahmasmi. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this opportunity, and I hope I made some sense. Thank you.
Anilji, thank you very much. You very rightly mentioned the word guru several times, and also the andhakara and the light. This is how precisely Indian Vedas define the word guru. Andhakar nirodhatvat gurur iti abdhiyate. A person, the word guru has 2 words, guru. Guru meaning andhakara, ru meaning remover. A guru is that person who removes the darkness of ignorance with the light of knowledge. This is the very definition, guru. Andhakara nirodhatvat gurur iti abhidhiyate. And you see the beauty of Indian culture. And the very word Sanskrit, the beauty of Sanskrit is the meaning, जो अर्थ है वो शब्दों से उजागर किया जाता है. It is brought out through the very word, like the word acharya. See the word acharya? You see, a guru is much more than a teacher and much more than a scholar. Huh? देखो, there is a beautiful Urdu poetry never fails me. So Murshid wo, Murshid, word is Murshid, Guru, Murshid. Murshid wo jo asuda e manzil kar de, जो a person who turns you towards the goal. Literally, आपको बस ऐसे टर्न कर दिया, ये टर्निंग ही है सिर्फ गुरु का काम. मुर्शिद वो जो आसूदा मंजिल कर दे, वरना रास्ता तो हर शख्स बता देता है. Many people can tell you कि रास्ता इधर है, गूगल भी बता देगा आपको. You can Google also, but you can't Google what the purpose of my life. तो मुर्शिद वो जो आसूदा मंजिल कर दे, वरना रास्ता तो हर शख्स बता देता है. तो आचार्य को कैसे डिफाइन किया जाता है in Indian culture, and from the very word the definition is drawn from the very word. Swam acharati, a person who lives the teachings himself or herself. Swam acharati, pran acharyati, and helps others to live the teachings is iti acharya, is called acharya. Now, all of you have mentioned something very beautiful. I just want to emphasize one aspect, which is the contribution of arts. You know, I may say we have 3 engineers on the panel. These may be the most spiritually inclined engineers on the planet, you know, I would say, you know. So this is a very beautiful, harmonious mix of people who are hard and crunchy, but at the same time, soft and squishy, you know, through spirituality, if I may use those interesting words. Now, without arts, you know, if you take the word, look at the word earth, EARTH. इसमें वर्ड जो है आर्ट है, आर्ट.
Right.
वो रिमूव कर दीजिए आप, क्या रहेगा? Nothing. Life becomes without art. तो ये है हुजूर आर्ट की खूबसूरती, कि ये जिंदगी को एक ऐसी दिशा दे देती है, एक ऐसी blissfulness. Such खूबसूरती is given by art, and without art, और आर्ट के कई फॉर्म्स हैं. मैं एक संगीत पर आपको एक बड़ी रेयर चीज आज सुनाऊंगा, और मेरी इच्छा तो सी जो सुबह वाला मेरा भगवद गीता का है, मगर माइंड बन गया मेरा कि आज यही शेयर की जाए कि व्हाट इज द रोल ऑफ संगीत. म्यूजिक इज नॉट मनोरंजन as it is entertainment, as it is in the rest of the world. In India, भारतीय संस्कृति की गरिमा महिमा देखिए आप. म्यूजिक इज फॉर आत्मरंजन, नॉट मनोरंजन, आत्मरंजन. टू डेल्व डीपर इनटू दी. तो उसकी एग्जांपल मैं आपको 2-3 चीजें, पोएम तो लंबी है मगर वक्त नहीं है. प्यार नहीं है सुर से जिसको, वो मूर्ख इंसान नहीं है. पोएट ने पहले ही सारा काम खत्म कर दिया. 4 तरह के लोग होते हैं, मूढ़, अज्ञानी, जिज्ञासु और ज्ञानी. आप देख लीजिए, 4थी श्रेणी दी है पोएट ने कि प्यार नहीं है सुर से जिसको, वो मूर्ख इंसान नहीं है. जग में अगर संगीत ना होता, कोई किसी का मीत ना होता. जग में अगर संगीत, कोई दोस्ती नहीं होनी थी. जग में अगर संगीत ना होता, कोई किसी का मीत ना होता. ये एहसान है 7 सुरों का कि दुनिया वीरान नहीं है. प्यार नहीं है सुर से जिसको, वो मूर्ख इंसान नहीं है. सुर इंसान बना देता है. I feel that most of the problems in the world are due to 2 reasons. One, people are out of sur. They are besure. And people are out of beat. Out of beat. ये engineers लोग enjoy करेंगे इसको, कि हम बेताले हैं और बेसुरे हैं. Because we are out of harmony, out of beat with life. That's why we have. तो सुर इंसान बना देता है, सुर भगवान मिला देता है. सुर की आग में जलने वाले परवाने नादान नहीं है. प्यार नहीं है सुर से जिसको, वो मूर्ख इंसान नहीं है. Now, before we conclude, I would like to, maybe 30 seconds to each panelist. What will you like to be? You see, we have barely scratched the surface. I wouldn't even say tip of the iceberg. We have not even covered the tip of the iceberg. ये तो वो फील्ड है कि उम्र दरकार है, यही जाना कि कुछ नहीं जाना है. और ये भी एक उम्र में हुआ जाके मालूम. तो ये वो फील्ड है जिसमें nobody can say we have exhausted all the options. So maybe in some other form we will continue, but I would like to, as a kind of bringing all threads together, 30 seconds, please, not more than 30 seconds or 1 minute each. What is your, as an educator, with so much experience, and so many other places that you have worked for, this is a very diverse. I was reading all your background. It's humbling. How much varied experience, masterly experience you have gathered. Based on that, if you have to tell some young person like 12, 13, 14, 14, a teenager, what is the purpose of life and what that person should focus on, what would that be? I think that will be much more elegant than just theoretical points. Telling some young person, according to your experience, what he or she should focus on, because that is the real purpose of education. We will start with Ramesh.
Thank you. So briefly, in terms of empowerment, I wanted to say that besides informing, we have to show them knowing. And knowing is through tools. Informing is gathering all the information. And today, because of internet and YouTube, we can gather much faster and much broader. But we need to draw the knowledge out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the tools and techniques come. And then the third component important that hasn't come up yet is the experiential learning. So in all my courses, I've developed dozens of case studies because the students need to know what they're going to face when they step into the work world. And my final concluding thought is, and I felt it very deeply, and it's often ignored, learning is a co-creation process. We can take the students to learning, but if the student doesn't want to learn, we can't make it. The proverbial, you take the horse to the water, but the fountain of knowledge will not work unless the student wants to learn. So we have to motivate and encourage students as much as communicating the content.
Excellent. Thank you. That is a very befitting coda to your beautiful symphony that you shared with us earlier. Amarji, over to you.
We should know that education comes from tap, like tapasya, tap. You have to put your time, mind, attention into acquiring the facts that already exist or have been developed. That is the top part of the education. And then there is the part of education that has to do with application, applying what you learned. And third part of all education should be how to now give it away, how to build on that. Those should be the three steps on which we should have the seed placed on. And if we can connect those three, we will do a good job of educating people.
Right.
Yes, Amarji, this is again, you guys are kind of bringing things to culmination. I have always felt that education should do three things, minimum. One, it should help a person discover their own greatness, their goodness and greatness which lies within them.
Right.
Second, it should help to polish that gift that the person has. Discovering the gift. Second, polishing the gift. And then when it has done that, giving that person the ability to share that gift with the rest of the humanity. So discovering your gifts, polishing them, and sharing them for the good of the humanity is the purpose of education in my book. Thank you very much for reiterating that.
I'll conclude with something from Gita, and I know Satinder will pull out the exact chapter and the verse and will recite to you. What Gita says is, knowledge is better than practice. So we got to understand that in education. Knowledge is better than practice. And then yoga, this top yoga or concentration is better than knowledge. And giving away the reward of what you get from your education brings the biggest bliss. That is, four steps there according to Gita. So obviously, knowledge is superior than practice, and research is superior than knowledge. And then what is higher than even research? Giving it away for free. No regard for any kind of reward or outcome. That brings the bliss. And
that's what Sharmaji is doing. Sharmaji is doing it, for the good of the humanity, giving all this knowledge, bringing all these thought leaders. I call this platform, it is a platform for, although Sharmaji likes to call it educators and motivators, if I have to sum it up, it is a platform of world thought leaders. And that's what giving it away really, really means. Now over to Shardaji.
Your question was, what do you want to say to a young person about education? So I would say, don't be only dependent on the formal education, because the formal education will tell you about how to name things, how to know things. But the main part is realizing. And I don't think formal education will give you enough space for realizing, going back to the self-management aspect. So try to seek that knowledge, that wisdom, also outside the informal educational platforms. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. Anilji, over to you.
Thank you. Very, very beautiful discussion. And I would say three things, the three sentences actually. The purpose of life is expansion of happiness for yourself and for others. To Rameshji's point of motivated students, I would say give them a taste of bliss, of wholeness. Don't teach part, give them a fullness of, once they get it, they will find their own time and resources to learn all about it. And to Amarji's point about TAP, I would say I had talked to somebody who had received a Vidya Vachaspati award from the Shankaracharya. And I said, what can I say to these teachers? He said, Vidyarthi Sukharthi nahi ho sakta, Sukharthi Vidyarthi nahi ho sakta. So a real student, is somebody who is in it for the love of it. And if I may add a fourth thing, actually, which I just learned 2 days ago from this Baiju gentleman, he said, he was asking, how are you changing to COVID, this and that? And he said, that we have to preserve and focus on the love of learning in the student. We can give it for free, we can expand this way, we can partner with every local, but we have to focus on the love of learning in the student. I think if so long as we nurture it, encourage it, and kindle it, and support it, rest will be so much downhill, because the inner motivation, once is there, then nothing can shake the student.
You are so right. I mean, I have always felt, Anilji and our distinguished panelists, that a teacher's job is very special. I mean, this is not to just please you or to please myself, having been teacher at 4 different continents and over the last 42 years. But this is how I feel, in our culture, although mukti is desired, but if there will be any other birth, I will still want to be a teacher, If that's what the Lord chooses, my choice profession will be, and I will not exchange it, even with the lordship of the universe, because that for me, in my book, has lesser meaning than, because what do? We are, like Socrates says, midwives. This is philosophical midwifery. We help the creative, bright ideas of young people. Let them deliver those ideas. We are just guide on the side. So a good teacher is one who is able to connect the goodness and the greatness that is within a student. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. Of course, you have to show slides. Of course, you have to give information. That is there at the practical level. But the real job, 20 years later, 30 years later, student will not remember you for the slides, but they will remember you for a story you shared with them, for something, how you made them feel. As Maya Angelou says, people will forget, what you did for them or said to them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So I believe if I were to say something to a young person, and we get the opportunity every day to do that at our home and as well as outside in our education setting, I always emphasize this point. Find out something. Find out that unique gift that nature has given you, because you are one time only limited edition. I tell them, cars are not limited edition. You are one time only limited edition. Like you, there will not be any other person in the universe. There was never a person, and there's never a person, or even now there is nobody just like you. Your smile, the way you say, the way you conduct. Huh?
There will never be one.
Right. So try to take that uniqueness and find a way to serve the world with that gift that you have. There is nothing better. There is nothing higher. If there is, please tell me, that will be the next book. But the point is, if we can help our young people discover that unique, फिर उनकी जिंदगी में रस आ जाएगा. जो आज नीरस है, वो रसमय हो जाएगा. And वेद कहता है, रसोवाहम, वो रस है. Or when they start getting that, reveling into that, and they start enjoying that, फिर उनको दूसरी चीजों की ज्यादा जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. Then they will be able, the shining objects, they will not be running after those fleeting objects, because वो अंदर से ही खुशबू. भगवत गीता कहती है, अल्टीमेट कहती है कि नॉलेज क्या है, इसको पाकर मिलता क्या है. ये पैराडाइम श्लोका है भगवत गीता में. यम लब्धवा चा अपरम लाभम मन्यते न अधिक तथा. जिसे पाकर इससे ज्यादा और कोई लाभ नहीं मानता. Having attained something, what a person has attained does not consider any other higher gain than. It's the supreme goal of life. Yam labdava cha apram. Usse par, apram, usse higher, beyond. Labham, gain. Na manyate adhikam tatha. Usse manta nahi hai, usse kuch nahi hai. Yasmin sthita. When one is established in that self, yasmin sthito na dukhen gurna api vichalyate. Usme sthit hua. Once established in that self-awareness, one is not shaken by even the greatest of the sorrow. ये है गारंटी, गिल्ट एज गारंटी है कैटेगोरिकल भगवत गीता की. ये वो ज्ञान है जिसे पाकर there is nothing higher to be attained. And once you are established in that self-knowledge, then yasmin sthita na dukhen guruna api. बहुत भारी दुख में, heaviest sorrow, गुरनापी विचालिते, विचलित नहीं होता. वेरी सिंपल लैंग्वेज है. यम लब्धवा, रवानी देखिए संस्कृति, रवानी. यम लब्धवा ना चापुरम लाभम मनिते न तथा यस्मिन स्थितो ना दुखेन गुरनापी विचालिते. तो अब शर्मा जी से मैं कहूंगा वो कुछ अंतिम बातें कहें, और बाद में फिर शांति मंत्र कह के आज का पैनल खत्म करेंगे 5-7 मिनट. शर्मा जी, ओवर टू यू सर.
Thank you very much. My deepest regards and deepest gratitudes and deepest thanks to everybody. Nothing could have been a better gift to me on this planet Earth. It is a sheer coincidence. It's a sheer coincidence. We have come a long way. 198 webinars we have already done. You can well imagine that so many panel discussions, so many experts, school education, higher education, technical education, vocational education, skill education, competency-based education, so many deliberations took place. It's a nature, it's almighty, it's a God's wish. Even Professor Satinder Dhiman also didn't know. He didn't know that today on my birthday, I wouldn't have got a better gift than to get the blessings and in such a beautiful deliberations to empower the Indian education ecosystem, whatsoever best all of us we can do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, few takeaways which I wish to share. This backdrop, if you see over here, I've taken the liberty to just show it to you. The chamber is right over there, International Chamber for Service Industry. The title we have taken, Making Education Relevant. I just chose these 3 words when we started this series during this pandemic. We just thought of it that let's stick to making education relevant, because it goes with the school education, higher education also, and all kind of whether technology is coming or how much technology is coming, what children are adopting, whatever is there. आइए शिक्षा को प्रासंगिक बनाएं. So we took global confluence of intellectuals, but now Satinder Dhiman is not only our immediate past president, but he's a visionary. He must have thought over it quite in a detail. From tomorrow, the global confluence of intellectuals will be changed to world thought leaders. We will change this global confluence of intellectuals to world thought leaders. Initially,
Beautiful.
we didn't
Very
take
beautiful.
initially we didn't take leaders because as Sharda madam was talking and Professor Amarji was also talking about it, when you talk leaders, so it should not get somewhere linked with the political leaders. That's why we didn't take a coining earlier leaders, because it has got so many connotations and we do not want to make this series. It's an independent, it's not related to, it is not biased by anybody. We are not taking any sponsorship from anybody. Nobody is near to us, nobody is far from us, nobody is dear to us, nobody is far away from us. Everybody is precious to us. We want to be the most humble students and learners over here. On the right side, we wrote on this backdrop soft talk, because there's a beautiful program on BBC which I watch, Hard Talk. So I took a word from there. Let's call it a soft talk. And when we were talking about soft talk, there was another reason, because there's a soft skills everybody talks about: etiquettes, manners, gesture, body language, personality, articulation, communication, whatsoever we talk. So everybody terms it nowadays like a soft skills. So we thought, let's call it a soft talk. Somewhere Professor Dhiman Saab made a mention, what do you have to give it ultimately to the youth? When he talked about the younger generation, the teenagers and all, down below we have written empowering young minds. Empowering young minds. We are keen to empower the young minds the best possible way. Down below, we have not mentioned living skills. We have not mentioned that you take education basically to get a job. We have written life management skills. That is life skills, how you can get. Now, something interesting, Jivan Sanchalan Kaushal, and over there we have mentioned follow your passion. Because whatsoever you are passionate about, if I'm passionate about this particular webinar, empowering education, then at my age, I'm not tired when it is 43 minutes past 11 p.m. in India. I'm still as fresh and I can go on till tomorrow morning to hear all of you. It's so enlightening, it's so thrilling, it's so empowering, it's so good. And down below, every Sunday morning, Satinder Dhiman, when he comes from 9:30 to 11 o'clock, and when he talks, Vidya se Adhyatam Vidya ki aur, what exactly Shrimad Bhagavad Gita and what India's Upanishad has got. And once he finishes a program and he goes back, because we allow him to sleep thereafter, because I don't want to keep him awake that late. When he goes, Indian Prime Minister comes and he talks Man Ki Baat. His program is Man Ki Baat. He comes on Sunday at 11. तो मैंने कहा मन की उड़ान, क्योंकि when we talk about मन की उड़ान, वो तो मन की बात करते हैं Honorable Prime Minister, but when we say मन की उड़ान, I'm going to say my mind, my soul, my spirit, I'm going to say so much it is traveling and it is moving. And all the times, everybody is telling, control your thoughts, control your thoughts. But I do not know where to draw a balance, how to draw a balance. And there's one beautiful video today which has come to me from Swami Vivekananda's Foundation from New York, because Swamiji is coming next Sunday. This last week was Chicago. I'm getting the global confluence from the world over, the people, and everybody is my teacher. You all were my teacher this evening, this morning, and this afternoon, whatever time zone we are in. There was so much of learning from each one of you. And ladies and gentlemen, today in the 199th program, is the first program with the non-resident Indians, with the foreign intellectual cerebrums in the capital. And now we will be bringing this program. We will try either fortnightly or once in a week, because we want to bring in the global best practices. Because if India has to go ahead, you all carry your own experiences, and those experiences we have to bring in the confluence and the podlock of our system of learning. But of course, at the same time, like Professor Amarji made a mention, it's not a golden triangle of three Punjabis, Professor Satinder, Dhiman, Professor Amar, and Professor Sharma. It is basically five of you together, and we got to have पांच तत्व, पांच लोगों से संसार बना, पांच उंगलियां, कुछ भी कहिए, जो भी चीजें हैं, पूरे संसार की रचना ही पांच चीजों से है. So you will be so happy to know, my mother at the age of 92, she was sitting behind and listening to the whole program, and she enjoyed. And in between, she told, you would require a cup of tea, because since morning you are sitting from I get up at 3:30 in the morning. So well, it was so
Gulshan ji, आपकी birthday के लिए हलवा. My wife just kept it बाके बनाया. So really.
Sir, we will take in a word.
We can all eat.
Vedic principle से बनाया गया. Vedic principle.
My mother had the Satyanarayan Katha in the morning, and she made me read Satyanarayan Katha. And here is the prasad which she brought and quietly kept over here. Mother is mother. Nobody can replace. You know, it's her love and affection, and she sends blessings to all of you. And we are so grateful to all of you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, ma'am. And our deepest regards and gratitude. And let's continue empowering Indian education system. We want to take India ahead. And this is a humble journey what we have started. Higher education, school education, technical education, vocational education, technology, everything we are going to bring into this particular platform. जब तक जीवन है, मैंने तो भिक्षा में प्रोफेसर सतेंद्र धीमान साहब से मांगा है कि जब तक मेरे श्वास चल रहे हैं, हर संडे आपको 9:30 बजे सुबह इस बूढ़े ब्राह्मण को भिक्षा देने के लिए आना है, और हमने उसको लाइव लेकर जाना है YouTube पर. And we want to empower the entire global humanity the best possible way, whatever we have got. आयुर्वेदा भारत से इसलिए चला गया और वो बाहर से पैकेज होके आया क्योंकि बहुत सारे लोगों ने अपनी पैथी को डिस्कस ही नहीं किया, डेलिब्रेट ही नहीं किया, बताया ही नहीं. अगर उन लोगों ने बताया होता, today the universe would have been altogether different. Once we take all that knowledge to the graveyard, it's of no use. Let's share the knowledge, let's share the wisdom. And once again with the folding hands, मुझे अपने लिए कुछ नहीं चाहिए. My whole family during the pandemic, they have been telling me, at this age, you should not be going out. You should not. But every day I was going and I was distributing food. I was giving dry rations. I was doing everything whatever my army pension, because I do not want to keep anything to myself. So well, with these words, great salutation, great regards, and great thanks to each one of you. Thanks for your most valuable time. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your expertise with the humanity. And ladies and gentlemen, this was live on the YouTube. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to say, as far as India is concerned, we'll put some more inputs in the permutation combination, and then we will send the video to all of you, and look forward for many more such deliberations. And with the folding hands, I pray to Almighty for the wellness and for the good health of all of us. And kuch hi ghanton ke baad, Professor Satinder Dhiman would again be there just to talk to the humanity, that is shiksha se adhyatam, विद्या की ओर, जहां पर हमको आगे जाना है. Thank you very much, all of us, and green morning and green afternoon and green evening to everybody, and deepest regards and thanks to all those have been posted on the YouTube. You have sent a lot of comments. Amit, I'm so grateful to you. Ritu Pradhanji, you are a nutritionist and a leading scholar. Thank you very much. Ashish, I'm so grateful to you. ये भुवनंद जी के शिष्य हैं और बहुत सारे प्रोग्राम उनके साथ करते रहते हैं और उनके अलावा बहुत सारे लोगों के कमेंट्स अभी तक मेरे को जो आ रहे हैं. I'm grateful to all of them. Thank you very much. Wish you all a wonderful health and